"Get the hell out of here before you embarrass us." Those were the exact words my mother-in-law, Evelyn, whispered fiercely into my ear. We were standing in the dazzling, marble-floored lobby of the Grand Horizon, the newest, most exclusive luxury boutique in Beverly Hills. Flashbulbs were popping. Waiters in tailored tuxedos passed around glasses of champagne that cost more than my monthly rent used to. Everyone who was anyone was there. Cameras were rolling for a local news broadcast, and a massive red ribbon stretched across the entrance, waiting to be cut. And right there, in front of the city's elite, my wife's family treated me like garbage they needed to sweep out the back door. My brother-in-law Chad stepped forward, deliberately bumping his shoulder into mine. He sneered, adjusting his $10,000 Rolex. "You heard her, Ethan. This is a high society event. Look at you. You're dragging down our brand just by standing here. Go wait in the car."
I looked at my wife, Chloe. I expected her to defend me. I expected her to grab my hand and tell her family to back off. Instead, she crossed her arms, sighed heavily, and looked away. "Just go, Ethan," Chloe murmured, her voice laced with exhaustion. "Today is about my family's dream. Don't make a scene and ruin it." They thought I was a nobody, a broke, deadbeat husband who married into their prestigious family for a free ride. They thought this multi-million-dollar luxury store was the ultimate proof of their supremacy. What they didn't know was that every single brick, every piece of imported marble, and every single luxury item inside that building had been paid for by me. And in exactly 10 minutes, I was going to shut it all down.
To understand how we got to this point, you have to understand how Chloe's family operates. The Vance family used to have real money, but over the last decade, bad investments and Chad's gambling habits stripped them of almost everything. Still, they maintained the illusion of extreme wealth. They drove leased sports cars, wore designer clothes bought on maxed-out credit cards, and looked down on anyone who actually had to work for a living. When Chloe and I met in college, she was different, or at least she pretended to be. I was a quiet tech guy, working 18 hours a day coding an automated logistics algorithm. She didn't mind that I wore faded hoodies and drove a beat-up sedan. We fell in love, or so I thought, and got married in a small courthouse ceremony, much to her mother's horror. Evelyn hated me from day one. "He has no pedigree," she would openly complain at family dinners, right in front of me. "He's a ghost, a nobody." Chad took every opportunity to humiliate me. Whenever we went out to eat, he'd order the most expensive bottles of wine and then hand me the bill, laughing. "Let's see if the tech boy's debit card declines." I always paid, silently, because I loved Chloe and wanted peace. But over the last year, things changed. My algorithm was acquired by a massive global conglomerate. The payout was astronomical. I went from making a comfortable living to having a net worth that could buy and sell the Vance family 10 times over. But I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't buy a flashy sports car. I kept my money quiet. I wanted to see if the people around me actually cared about me, or if they only cared about status. Unfortunately, Chloe started slipping back into her family's toxic mindset. She began nagging me about my lack of ambition. She constantly compared me to Chad, who had just announced he was opening a luxury retail store called the Grand Horizon. "Chad is doing big things, Ethan," Chloe told me one night, tossing a designer handbag onto her couch. "He's securing international investors. He's building an empire. And you're just sitting in front of a computer all day." I didn't say a word. I just smiled and nodded.
What Chloe didn't know was the truth behind Chad's empire. About 3 months ago, Chad came to our house when Chloe wasn't home. He was sweating, pacing, and looking completely frantic. The facade had cracked. "I need a loan, Ethan," he gasped, throwing himself into a chair. I'm in deep. I signed a lease on a prime Beverly Hills location for the store. I ordered millions in inventory from European suppliers, but the main investor just pulled out. If I don't secure $5 million by the end of the week, the suppliers will sue, the lease will default, and my family will be utterly ruined. He begged me. He literally cried. He promised he would pay me back with interest, and he swore me to absolute secrecy. Don't tell Chloe or my mom. If they find out I screwed up this badly, it'll kill them. I saw an opportunity. Not out of malice, but out of a desire to actually help my wife's family while securing my own position. I agreed to fund the entire project. But I didn't just hand him a check. I had my lawyers draw up a watertight contract. Because Chad was desperate, he signed it without reading the fine print.
The terms were simple. I would provide the full $5 million through an anonymous holding company called Apex Prime Holdings. In exchange, Apex Prime held 100% ownership of the building, the inventory, and the brand itself until the loan was paid back in full. Furthermore, the contract stated that if any representative of the Grand Horizon acted in a way that publicly damaged the reputation or integrity of the brand's silent partner, the contract would immediately default, and Apex Prime would take full operational control. I poured my wealth into making their dream a reality. I secretly approved the top-tier contractors, paid for the imported Italian marble, and ensured the grand opening would be a massive success. As the store neared completion, Chad's arrogance returned tenfold. He completely forgot that he was holding a tiger by the tail. He convinced himself and his mother that he had pulled off a brilliant business move by securing a clueless, faceless corporate investor. He went right back to treating me like trash. And Chloe, seeing her brother's apparent success, completely aligned herself with him. She stopped inviting me to dinners. She started talking about taking a break from our marriage. Which brings us back to the grand opening.
Standing in the glittering lobby, surrounded by the wealthy elite, Evelyn's words stung, but Chad's smug grin burned. Go wait in the car, Ethan, Chad repeated, putting a hand on my chest to push me backward. The mayor is arriving in 5 minutes for the ribbon cutting. We can't have a guy in an off-the-rack suit ruining the family photos. I looked at Chloe one last time. Chloe, if I walk out that door, there's no coming back. Are you sure you want me to leave? Chloe didn't even look at me. She adjusted her diamond earrings. Just go, Ethan. You're embarrassing me. A cold, calm sensation washed over me. The love I had felt for her, the patience I had held for her family, it all evaporated into the air-conditioned luxury of the room. Fine, I said softly. I'll leave. I turned around and walked out of the store. But I didn't go to the car. I walked across the street, pulled out my phone, and called my attorney, Marcus. Marcus, I said, watching the crowd through the massive glass windows of the boutique. They just kicked me out. Activate the default clause. Public disrespect and breach of integrity. Shut it down. Right now. With pleasure, sir, Marcus replied. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the drama unfold. Through the glass, I saw the mayor of Los Angeles arrive. The crowd cheered. Chad stepped up to the microphone, preening like a peacock. Evelyn looked like she was about to burst with pride. Chloe stood by her brother's side, smiling radiantly for the flashing cameras. Chad raised a massive pair of golden scissors, ready to cut the red ribbon. Suddenly, the lights cut out. The entire building went pitch black. The music stopped. The digital displays went dark. A murmur of confusion rippled through the crowd. Seconds later, the emergency backup lights clicked on, casting a harsh, unflattering red glow over the entire venue. Before Chad could say anything into the dead microphone, the heavy glass entrance doors automatically slid shut and locked with a loud, echoey click. Then, 4 burly men in dark suits stepped out of the crowd, accompanied by a man holding a briefcase. It was Marcus. Marcus walked right up to the stage, pulling a megaphone from a security guard's bag. "Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor and members of the press," Marcus's voice boomed through the room. "I am the legal representative for Apex Prime Holdings, the sole owner of this building, this inventory, and the brand The Grand Horizon. Due to a severe breach of contract by the operating manager, Chad Vance, this event is officially canceled, and this establishment is being seized, effective immediately." The crowd gasped. Chad's face went completely pale, draining of all color. "What are you talking about?" Chad screamed, dropping the golden scissors. "I own this. Apex Prime is just my investor. You can't do this." Evelyn rushed forward, shrieking at the top of her lungs. "Call the police. This is a mistake. My son is a billionaire." Marcus didn't blink. He handed a legal document to the mayor and then turned back to the megaphone. "Mr. Vance, you signed a contract stating that if you or your family publicly humiliated or damaged the integrity of your silent partner, you would forfeit all operational rights. Your silent partner was standing in this room 5 minutes ago, and you had him thrown out." Chloe frowned, her voice trembling. "What? Who is the partner? Who are you talking about?" Marcus turned his head and pointed directly through the glass doors, straight at the sidewalk across the street. Straight at me.
Every single head in that room turned. The cameras swiveled away from the stage and pointed through the glass windows, zooming in on me. Through the glass, I met Chloe's eyes. Her jaw dropped. Her hands flew to her mouth as the realization hit her like a physical blow. She realized that the husband she had looked down on, the man she thought was a broke loser, was the anonymous billionaire who had funded her family's entire life for the past 3 months. Chad stumbled backwards into a display case, knocking over a stack of luxury handbags. Evelyn looked like she was having a medical emergency, clutching her chest as she stared at me in absolute horror. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. It immediately began vibrating. Chloe was calling. I answered it and put it to my ear, keeping my eyes locked on hers through the glass. "Ethan," she sobbed, her voice cracking over the line. "Ethan, please. Oh my God, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Please don't do this to my family. Come back inside. We love you. I love you." "You didn't know I had money, Chloe," I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. "That's the point. You only love the version of me that holds the checkbook. You, your brother, and your mother wanted a billionaire. Well, you found one, but you just kicked him out." "Ethan, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face as the high society crowd began to awkwardly exit through the side fire doors, whispering and laughing at the family's public ruin. "We can fix this. Let's talk." "Goodbye, Chloe. My lawyers will handle the divorce papers," I said calmly. I hung up the phone and texted Marcus one final instruction: liquidate the inventory and sell the building to a discount warehouse. I turned my back on the flashing cameras, the ruined boutique, and the screaming family. I walked down the street, feeling lighter than I had in years. But as I reached the corner, my phone buzzed with an alert from my bank. A massive wire transfer of $10 million had just landed in my personal account. It was accompanied by a text message from an unknown number. I opened the text. It read, "Transaction complete. Thanks for helping us set up the Vance family for the ultimate fall. The real owners of Apex Prime are glad you played your part perfectly. Now, let's talk about your algorithm, because you don't actually own that anymore either." I froze on the sidewalk, looking down at my phone. The automated logistics algorithm, the source of my entire fortune, had been transferred out of my holding company's name while I was busy focusing on my revenge. I looked back at the store.
Marcus was standing inside, but he wasn't looking at the Vances anymore. He was looking across the street at me, a cold, ruthless smile spreading across his face as he raised his glass of champagne. I hadn't been the mastermind. I had just been the pawn used to ruin the Vances and wipe myself out in the process.